Welcome Sheila to the show. She's a creator success coach at Passion.io, and she supports clients with creating the right offer and launching it to build and scale their successful business online. Sheila, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to see you, Matt.
When launching products and offers, what are the common concerns that people face, and should they build it out start to finish?
Yeah, this is a really common concern because I think a lot of people coming into whether they've started a business already or they're brand new to the business world, they may think they have to bring a completed product to market immediately and only when it's polished. But what Passion is great at doing is guiding people through to first really think about what their mission is, think about who they're serving, and then bring their dream client on the journey of actually designing this product, kind of a minimum viable product offer. And so what we find is in following some of the programs that Passion has put together is launching early really allows you to create urgency in actually getting started, number one. So it's really motivating for the creator, but also you're able to gather valuable feedback from the people who you're wanting to serve. So you're not guessing. And it doesn't have to take so long because you're delivering your core framework of what you're wanting to offer. Like you're the product expert or the content expert, and then you're getting feedback as you go. So you can keep elevating the quality of the product. What we also see is these real world adjustments that are being placed helps you be able to create a more viable and valuable product. And so you're going to find because you're actually speaking more directly to your client, you're going to be getting clients who are actually paying attention and who are willing to invest in your offerings as well. So I love to say just trust what we've outlined for you because it's something really that Passion has done themselves. I've personally followed this system myself, and I see that it's just such a valuable way of going about it. So you kind of release the old thinking of what you think is how you're supposed to launch and follow a little bit of a different framework.
Right. So instead of dying in perfection and like never launch potentially, you rather want to launch early, like the lean startup approach, rapid prototyping. And with that, you can actually get feedback from the market, from real customers. And the additional gain from that feedback to improve your product will be so much more valuable than you sitting in the basement by yourself and trying to create the perfect product. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I love when you say perfection, it's something that comes up so much. And like recovering perfectionist over here, it's real, especially for some of us who are in certain cultures and, certain gender roles who are used to kind of needing to show up exactly a certain way, or there's so much fear to be seen. Like visibility is a big thing people deal with. But what I love to invite people into is the idea of excellence. So, like, put your best foot forward. We're not looking at just putting anything out there, but put your best foot forward, be excellent. And then when you actually take that first step, that's when actually more ideas land than you would have had if you were just sitting looking at a blank screen.
Right. That makes total sense. I think at Passion, I heard the word first pancake also a couple of times. That's connected here, isn't it?
Yeah, the first pancake is so good and it makes me hungry every time. I love pancakes in Canada over here. I love my maple syrup. But it is so true. I think about it every time I'm making pancakes for my kids. Like, frankly, the first pancake still tastes amazing. It just might not look as pretty, but the content is there. And if you're really the content expert, if you're really wanting to serve, that's going to come through and the transformation can happen.
Right. Um, if you then, let's say, create your product, how do you price and value your offer? And what else is important?
Yeah, well, thinking about pricing and thinking about the value of it, I think certainly it is helpful to look around at what other products, depending on the type of thing that you're serving, it is helpful to look around. Um, but I think the very key important thing to look at is the value that you bring, your expertise, perhaps the education that you've brought to it, like how much have you personally invested in yourself? Bring all of that into the fold, not just that, oh, this is a brand new thing. It's not fully tested in its actual form. It could be a lifetime of your body of work that you are now sharing as a thought leader in this space. So you need to bring all of that together. And I think it's super helpful getting the guidance of a coach who has, walked along the journey with people, but always really kind of erring on the side of charging on the higher side for people who really want to actually get a transformation in their life. They will invest in themselves. And I will say, I love to buy courses. I love to buy things to improve myself. And right now in my inbox, there are a couple of courses I bought for like a few $100s, and they're going to teach me great things. And I know they're amazing. I love the people who put them together. I've not even opened the email because I'm obviously not, I'm thinking, well, I didn't spend enough, right? So what I've done in some cases is I've gone and hired out help to help me with the things those programs would have helped me with. So I've ended up spending more because that I'm putting more value on that. And so the things that I've spent thousands of dollars on, I tend to actually show up, I finish, and it helps me move forward more quickly. So I do love to have people think about it in context to, if you're investing in your education, like if you're going to get an MBA or a PhD or something, like you're really investing not just the money, but the time. And so if you have something of value to offer, you really need to take all of that into account and think about who it is that you want to be purchasing your offer and serve them well by giving them the opportunity to invest in themselves.
Right. Hey, I have a good story here to share from back in the days at Udemy when Udemy was cool. And back then, I became one of the bigger instructors, had 50K students, and Udemy was like throwing discounts every other week or month. And every time I could get a three-figure course for $5, I bought a few. Never done them. They were always for the drawer, never started. But I always thought like, okay, why not, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why the completion rate of courses, the market standard is 4% and not higher because people just like don't do them. And another interesting thing happened back in the days where a fellow instructor, he actually priced his course at $30 and he had a satisfaction rating of 3.5 stars out of 5. And then he decided to increase the price to $300. So like a 10x in price. And the satisfaction, same course, same content, same everything, went up from 3.5 to 4.8. And why? Because people invested and put money down. They really did it. And the moment when they did it, they're doing it, then it works. And then they have success. And so they're happy and satisfied. So that I think was a pretty inspirational moment to see that pricing below the value can be very dangerous.
It really can. And isn't it interesting how when you value yourself, others value you?
Right.
It's the same with money, it's the same with time, it's the same with influence. Like I see it happening in like parenting roles. You know what I mean? Like it's cross topic. And so I love that story. That's so interesting. Hopefully people will remember that when they're pricing things.
Right. Um, what are the key elements to consider when launching a product, like choosing the right program and also setting a launch date?
Yeah, this can really stop people, I find, because there's so many different ways that you can launch. There's so many different, number one, there's so many different things that you can do in terms of offer, and people can get stuck there. But what I love to do when it comes to launching, and it's something that I think a lot of people who have had successful businesses, when you hear them telling their stories, they've put things out before they're really feeling ready. But choosing a date, it gives you something to shoot for. And some people, I find a lot of people that I've talked to, especially in the creative entrepreneurial space, they typically are people that will kind of push themselves to the last minute and then use that energy as a surge to like get things done. So my feeling is if you're going to want to launch something, set a timeline that is a little closer than what you're comfortable with because it'll actually move you into action faster and it gives you that kind of urgency. And knowing that really in the back of your mind, you're the business owner, you can shift if you find that, okay, you're really, really close, but there's just a few tweaks you want to make and you're going to like put it out a week or something. That's fine. But the most important thing is to be choosing the program itself and the timing with the goals that are aligned with the audience that you're reaching. So, you know, thinking about really there's no perfect time to launch. Like maybe there's a few not good times to launch each year. Like maybe Boxing Day is not the best time to launch, right? Or New Year's Day. However, we are such an online remote environment now in business that I feel like if you are giving people enough of a runway to learn about you and you have something really of value to offer and you're reaching an aligned audience, anytime is a good.
Right. I think one interesting experience that I made back in the days when I was working in consulting, back then we had clients and there were deadlines. And these deadlines, they had to be respected. So we had to deliver on that day at that time. And we did, well, of course, we started with good ambition in the beginning and we worked as fast as possible. But the closer the deadline came, the more it went into crazy work and night shifts and everything. But we had to deliver on the time. It was never an option to actually move the time, the date, call the client, say, hey, can we do it a week or two later? Right. But the moment when you work for yourself on your own programs and you don't really have deadlines if you don't set them, right?
That's
You
right.
could say like, you know what, like if I build this part out further or this part further, it would just take another week, but then the program will be so much better. And you all of a sudden don't have these deadlines, and that leads then to perfection paralysis, where you keep on building your program for like 3 years. So I think one thing which is interesting is set your deadlines. And if you're hardcore, announce them publicly. So say, hey, my program is launching on January 1st or whatever, and you're launching on January 1st, and that's it. And you have to do it because you have an obligation for your customers to deliver on that date and for yourself. Because if you can deliver what you say, your confidence will grow because you have confidence in what you're saying. So your confidence level also goes up. And I think it's just like a self-inflicting and forcing upward spiral that you got to go into. So I love that what you just shared about deadlines. Yeah.
Well, I think it builds self trust, right? It's kind of like saying, I'm going to start getting up 15 minutes early and go for a run or a walk. And the more times you don't do that thing, the more your personal trust in yourself is eroded. But the more little goals that you can set, that you have a timeline on, that you are going after and actually achieving, the more you're building self trust. And I agree with you, like, especially because we're thinking about the first pancake. We know like the thought of perfection doesn't have to be there, but just knowing that, hey, I launched, I got it out there. So powerful.
If you think the creator economy is really interesting, then I got something for you. On milliondollarcreators.club, we actually created a database of all the creators out there. And you see not just their fans, followers, subscribers, but actually how much money are they making. So with that, we bring now transparency into the creator economy, and you really see how are the best of the best get their customers, price their offers, create their offer stack, get customers, which tools are they using, how will they grow and triple their business going forward. So if that's interesting for you, including lists of who makes the most revenue, who has the fastest revenue growth, who has the biggest audience, who has the fastest growing audience, who makes the most revenue per follower, and who has the most exciting offer stack from low end all the way to the high end, then go to milliondollarcreators.club and enjoy the data. How can you leverage online platforms for growth, to get customers, expanding your presence?
Yeah, so many people are in the online space and it can get really noisy knowing where to post and what to do, but I think determining a social media and a email marketing strategy for yourself that is in alignment with who you're serving and the type of product that you're selling is very important to get right from the start. And often I have people coming to me who they've maybe not engaged much on social media at all. They're coming from a traditional business background and they're wanting to expand their thought leadership online. And they're like, "Oh, what do I do? I'm starting from scratch. How do I do this?" And I always love to guide people to get help from people who've been there before, who can kind of determine, what are the best platforms for them, for the audience that they're trying to serve, and knowing that you can get started even with no following and start over a period of time gathering interested people in your message. And if you have someone guiding you in how to set that up right from the get go, you're going to have more aligned clients right from the beginning, because a lot of people who may have social media already, it's just like friends and family. People are like, oh, hey, let me look at your travel videos, So the sooner you can get it dialed in, focused on exactly what your offer is and what your messaging is, it's so important. And then from that place, it is so important to be consistently creating content so that people are looking for your content that you're sharing, getting to know you, trusting you, just like in the same way you're setting a launch date and showing up for it and following through, you're showing up in the socials or in your email every week, for instance, and people are looking for that and they start to trust you. And the more they start to trust you, then they're more willing to actually buy from you and want to have closer proximity to you, to work with you. And so Passion has some beautiful frameworks in a few of their programs that actually guide you through specifically what those steps are from start to finish. And it can be whether you've launched something already and you're relaunching, or you're starting absolutely from scratch. And what I love, for instance, back in the day, my mom used to love cross country skiing. But before she went out, and before my sister and I would go out with her, she would go out on the snowshoes and she would create the tracks. And then we could follow those tracks. And it felt so good knowing we were out there, but also we didn't have to like sledge through the snow to create our own tracks and maybe fall into a gully or something, right? And so with the programs Passion is created, it's very similar. We've created a framework that works. And so now people can just follow those steps. And I find Dan in the programs that he's created, and Georgia in the expert growth program with Dan, they make it so doable and actually kind of fun. And I think that the more fun we can have while we're in creative mode building something, the better. And they've managed to create something really beautiful that is both practical and enjoyable to follow.
Let's talk about it. Let me double click on this. Like, what is this expert growth program and how does it help in launching and growing my business, a customer's business?
Okay. So Expert Growth is a program that really talks start to finish about how to identify what your mission is, what you're trying to achieve, the type of client you're trying to reach, what your brand looks like, the look and feel of your brand. And Georgia Ricard has a background in marketing and in really photojournalism. So she understands like the whole picture of how the look can really reach your clients, because we're in a visual and video world right now. This is why this is a video podcast right now. And so people, what they're seeing is so important. And then it takes them, they also take people through the whole process then of creating the pieces that will guide people to you to get the offer that you're creating, all the way through to selling it, to understanding the sales mindset, to be able then to deliver the content, to be able to automate things, to be able to then delegate so that you can scale. And then you can rinse and repeat this whole program over and over as many times as you want. It's a very complete, robust program. And I've had people tell me, some clients who've been through it, who are in a traditional business, who have seen different, they have a brick and mortar business. And I've heard business coaches say that this particular program is something that could be standalone to show someone how to start and grow an online business from scratch. And it would be like just this program is enough to do that. So it's very complete.
Amazing. I think this opens up another question, which or concern, which I have as a someone that builds a business and wants to scale it. So overwhelm, right? How do I manage the overwhelm? I can create programs and offers. I can build an app. I can acquire clients. I can create content on social media. I can create content for the programs. I can do automations and systems and Zapier and you name it. Like there's 55 billion things I can do. How do I manage the overwhelm?
It's so funny when you mention that, like I almost start to feel anxious because it is overwhelming. I've been there and I've bootstrapped my own programs and things over the years. First of all, getting help and guidance is key. So again, when we're looking at building a business, we need to be thinking very much about investing in that business and protecting your energy as the creator and the person who's serving the client. So that's why getting help, whether it is by following a proven program, kind of like how Passion has the Expert Unleashed Challenge and the Expert Growth Program, wonderful guidance programs. And then also there are coaches that can help you to actually implement. So you're not just trying to figure it out all on your own in terms of the specifics in terms of social media strategy or copywriting, etc. So that's the first thing. Get the help, find proven guidance. And you may find when someone is guiding you in which of all of these things you can be doing is the place to begin, is like start with one piece and then add on over time. And I'd say also planning your time is so, so important, and planning your energy. So I love to invite people to think about when is their best content creation time of the day and when is their best content consumption time of the day, because there's going to be a bit of both. As you're creating your content, you're going to need the guidance to put it all together. So once you know what your personal energy levels are at and when, how your brain works best to do certain tasks, scheduling that time in and committing to it like it's the most important thing that you're doing is so important. And then really just leaning into the guidance of coaches who understand the process, who can really reflect back to you the proper steps. And often what I think people will find is they actually know inside of themselves what is most resonant and what they need to be doing. They just need a little guidance. They just need a little focus from someone who understands. So get the help and then just understand how you work best.
That makes sense. I think one interesting situation happened recently. We were at the Passion Live event, and there was a client that made a K a month over the last 12 months, so 12K,
Yeah.
and then worked with some of the coaches. And then within the next 72 hours after the event, brought in 12K just in 3 days. So made the whole amount of money that they made the year before in 3 days, which I think shows the power of guidance.
Guidance
Nice.
and accountability, right? Like showing up. It's one thing to have an idea of what you want to achieve. And the people who have come into my sphere who have such beautiful ideas and they have incredible experience and credentials, and yet they don't trust themselves. They're like, because it's this unknown, the online space is this unknown, they don't trust themselves to be able to actually do the thing. But just having someone there to say, no, you're on the right track. Like, you've got this. Yeah, this is, people want to buy this. Yes, people need this that you're offering. And yeah, that example that you shared is so powerful because someone was sitting with her, a team was sitting with her to say, hey, let's walk you through this and let's actually just do it instead of thinking about it. It's exciting.
100%. How much does Passion do for clients in terms of building the app, defining the offers, branding, everything else?
So, in terms of the different ways that Passion serves clients, we have really a team of coaches and advisors, and it's really a group context um, in terms of one of our programs called Creator MBA. And it guides people through the other two programs, Expert Unleashed Challenge and Expert Growth, in order to help people implement and to give them that guidance on things like messaging and copywriting and offer creation and pricing. And so there's some one on one focus, there's group context as well. And I love the group dynamic because I've seen people go into a group not even knowing, like, oh, I don't know that I even have a question. And one person in particular was wanting to create an app that had just so many different pieces to it and was starting to confuse themselves even. And so it was slowing down their progress of actually getting the app launched. And then when they were in this group context, listening to people discuss different offers and how they're positioning themselves, they saw people with like a really simple offer that was like their initial offer, and then maybe there was a downsell to something else, and this person was just going for it and launching it, and they were actually starting to get people signing up for this offer. So this other person realized, oh, all these other pieces, I can save those for later. I'm going to focus on my core offer. And that's what you got from a group context. um, it's so important though. What I find is people coming into the programs is to understand that truly, with it being their business, like they're the visionary, they're the final decision maker, right? We are really just guides. So it's not about us deciding for you what you're going to be doing. It's about us helping you gain clarity around your ideas and then holding you accountable to those things that you say that you really want, and then walking alongside of you while you're launching. I think that's a beautiful thing. It's one thing to create the whole thing and then get it out there, but then to still have some coaches there to support you as you're launching and then maybe even relaunching soon after can be really encouraging. And you have kind of like your team that's there to kind of help you look at what worked, what didn't, and you can actually your next launch can be way more seamless.
Right. And in that process, what are some typical underlying challenges that creators face, and how can they then actually overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, we've all experienced this, right, Matt? Like we have this idea. It's so amazing. We get I call them divine downloads. It's like, oh, like angels start singing. It's like such an incredible idea. And then you go to like implement it, and then all of these thoughts come to you like, ooh, I don't know if this is really what people want, or who am I to actually do this? Like we realize there's so many real issues lying beneath the surface inside of ourselves when we're launching things. The self-doubt comes up, and maybe lack of belief in what we're doing. But there's a beautiful book called Winging It by Emma Isaacs out of Australia. And she shares so many beautiful stories, herself included, of people who have had a great idea and they're like, I don't really know if this is going to work, but I'm just going to do this. And I don't think the fear, from what I understand and all the people I've talked to, the fear never really goes away when you're actually going to launch something new because you've never done it before, right? You may have done it like a semblance of it, a piece of it in terms of this is your body of work, but like delivering it in a different way, I don't know. It's all a bit of a risk. And when we put ourselves out there, it opens up a lot of things inside of ourselves, perhaps from the past experiences, often from childhood, where we didn't have the tools to be able to move through and actually, accomplish what we wanted to. And so I really believe it is all about taking those initial steps, and it can be as simple as, or as challenging at first, as setting a launch date for your minimum viable product, and like just like this little thing you're going to do or big thing, and just trusting yourself to actually follow through on it. And like we said earlier, building that self-trust muscle becomes a practice, and continuing to along the journey, like I mentioned, striving for excellence, but also really just celebrating any win of showing up, like waking up, creating the post, showing up live, um, putting yourself out there is something to celebrate. Too often, I think we skip over those little things when really a successful business is a compilation of many, many little things building up over time. It's that consistency over time that creates the win. So I think celebrating along the way is huge, and just building that self-trust muscle and knowing that you're in good company. If you're feeling a little anxious about something new you've never done before, totally normal. Totally normal.
If you're looking for a free coach that helps you to build and scale your creator business, I got something for you. We created the $1 million Creators GPT assistant. And what you can do with this is you just ask your question, and the $1 million Creators GPT has all the context of all the people that we ever interviewed. And that includes their price points, their offer stacks, how they get customers, how they will scale further, which channels are the best, and so on and so forth. So it's like a super creator that knows exactly how to make $1 million or more. So if that's interesting to you, ask them what specifically is on your mind, what's your problem, and the $1 million Creators GPT will answer that. Enjoy. It's all free. Really empathize with this, celebrate along the way. I have to like go in the pain to the very end, and then the shiny fireworks happens, right? But I think two things happened over time. One is it made me also grow a lot as a person to go into like this pain, because outside the comfort zone is the zone of discomfort, right? And the more I deal there with the discomfort, the anxieties, the more my comfort zone grows and the more confident I become, right? So this has been pivotal. So pain has been like one of the best growth drivers, fulfillment drivers, success drivers, and so on and so forth. So And I think then over the years, I also realized that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Mm.
And celebrating the journey together with great people, or looking back at what I've accomplished last week, last month, who have I worked with, impact have I created for the clients, with people that I work, and so on. That's something which is actually what's really fulfilling. So by embracing that, I can grow and I can be happy. And I think one thing that wasn't clear to me is that ultimately all this pain, all this work without immediate payback is such a fantastic. It's personal growth at its best. That makes me a better version of myself every single day, leading to the person that I ultimately want to be. And
Mhm.
I personally think it would be hell on earth if I would meet in real life the person that I could have been,
Mm.
could have become. So I don't know, that is something where this entrepreneurial, this creator track is actually the one to really come to ultimate fulfillment. I think not just at the destination, but on the journey. And pain is actually a part of it, which is very important to get there.
Mm. 100% agree. Like to everything you just said. I feel like it's in those moments where we're challenged. And when, let's face it, there's so many unknowns. And a lot of people experience that over the last few years, particularly thinking they had something really solid and then the rug was pulled out from beneath them. And then so many people took that as an opportunity to say, okay, what am I made of? Let's see. Like, what is my work in this world? And that's why I love the creator environment so much because it brings out the best in all of us and it shows us what's possible. It gives us hope. But you're right. If everything was easy, would it really feel worth it? And would we really grow? Like I look to nature all the time, the seasons and the cycles. And it's like every year our nature is like dying and then being reborn all the time. And like
Mm.
we are as humans, like pieces of ourselves kind of die off when we challenge ourselves and we cross into something new that we've never done before. And I think so celebrating it becomes even more important because you're like, it's a celebration of who you were and now who you are and even who you can be. If you got here from there, imagine where you can go next.
Yeah, totally. I think one thing which I just want to quickly touch upon is that the creator business brings in the best of us. If I just think about social media, right? This is like where it all started. Like the apps came out and I was like, everyone was like, this is amazing, it's the best thing ever. And then a few years down the road, everyone's like, oh, I don't know if social media is good. I hate Facebook. I should delete all the apps and like it's making me addictive. And then all of that thing happened, right? And I think ultimately I came to the realization it's not so black and white, you know. And today I call it business media because
Mm.
that's what it really is. It's about um, a channel to engage with people, also to learn and grow myself. Right? There's amazing people there, but it's like it requires awareness and clarity of how I want to use it.
Yes.
And if I am a victim, or let's say it's quite easy to get drawn into it and not realizing it, becoming aware how addicted you I am to social media. But the moment when I am aware, then I'm like, okay, I want to get inspiration. There are the best podcasts out there, right? Which are better than Netflix. So I binge on these YouTube things and so on and so forth, right? And it's so nichey and so deep, and whatever I want, I can get it. And it just is amazing to see. And if done with awareness, it actually can bring the best of the best in us to the surface. And I think that's something where, yeah, it's still a process where all the people out there in the creator economy are on a journey, and it's very exciting actually to see that. But I agree, like if done with awareness, it can really bring in the best of us to the surface.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that true of everything in our life, right? Any connection we have, any relationship, any type of business, you got to run it through that filter, your value filter.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a wonderful tool. And certainly we're always teaching the algorithm. So when I look, I don't spend much time consuming social media other than podcasts. I love my podcasts. And your podcast is amazing. It's like so inspiring. I can't wait for all the new episodes to
Thank
come.
you.
And I think it's because they're so real. Everybody's you get to really know people's story. They're not just telling you the shiny, happy version. They're like, oh, and there's all the in
Yeah.
between stuff. It's never a straight line to our deepest desires. When I think about social media, when I think about whether or not we want to determine like how much is too much for me, and am I getting addicted, and is my mind kind of being taken over by these all of these different things rolling and scrolling through the feed. I think it's really important to take space from it from time to time. That's something that I do regularly. And I also think, based on what we're watching and based on the things that we're taking in, we really teach social media what we value by what we're watching. And so when I go into my social media feeds, I see so many beautiful things, beautiful people doing really heart centered work, funny things, joyful things, transformational things, because those are the things that I value and those are the things that I spend my time looking at. And so for people who may be thinking, oh, it's not a great place, know that that's kind of partially it can be by design. Like we are drawn into clickbait very easily sometimes, and we can be taken down a path maybe we didn't really choose, but then it can take us down to this different little place on the internet that maybe we don't want to be. So I think really being aware of that is important, and then stepping away, taking space, and seeing how you feel when you're away from all of your tech for a day or two. Give yourself a break. Like some people do it once a week. Sometimes I've done that. Like Sundays are like my nature day, completely off tech, and it feels really good when I come back on Monday. I'm like recharged, and knowing that, like anything else, all of our technology, all of our social media, I love it. It does so many things. It frees me up to connect and do my work, and I rule it. It does not rule me. I think that boundary is so, so important.
Yes, I agree with that. You said earlier something about the algorithm and what the algorithm likes. One thing that I realized more and more is you can actually substitute the word algorithm with the word audience, because the algorithms are so strong that if the audience likes it, it will just explode. And if not, that just means it's not that strong. It's not a good of a content,
Yeah.
which also helps you or me, to be honest to myself, knowing that, okay, I have to become better. And yeah, with that, I think it's again like this realization. It's about business. I need to bring value to the table. And if I do so, I will be successful. If not, I have to learn and grow. So it's success or learning. That's essentially what it is. The
Absolutely.
moment when I blame the algorithm, I am essentially giving away the control and the power that I have over myself, where I'm in control, to someone else, this mystical thing
Right.
that is like sitting in Zuckerberg's basement and I don't know, right? So I think you want to become successful as quick as possible. It's important to be honest and truthful to yourself and realize that it's a journey. It's the first pancake, and it's also the start of something amazing. And the more persistent you are and you keep going, the better the pancake will be. And if you can do this for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, it's going to be one of the best pancakes on the planet.
Imagine the people who are going to be benefiting from that. Like you get to shift culture. We all have that opportunity. So if you're a good-hearted, you know, really success oriented, heart centered person, imagine the good that you can do with what you know to help the people. Like we all have equal opportunity. I think that's the key. It's an equal opportunity playing field, but it's exactly what you said. Like, how are we showing up and are we looking to improve continually over time? And I think being in a community of creators is so important for that, because you start to, as one person's elevating, the other person's elevating, and you're just kind of collectively rising together and
Yes.
collaborating, and there's just all these beautiful connections. That's the space I want to be in. That's what I love about passion. The like internally and externally, such a beautiful ecosystem growing to the next level.
I agree. I think one point that you also just made actually is that, I personally, I live in the woodworks almost. There's I don't know, not like 1,000 people in this town here, but let's but I have certain. Everyone is unique. I have a certain interest, right? And let's assume, I mean, it doesn't matter like what interests I have. There's not going to be a lot of people in this town that I can share my interests with. And let's say you are into, let's pick some random stuff like braiding for red-haired women over 40 or whatever. Um, Online, of course, through business media, you can connect with all these people, and you can really deliver them value, right? And so it's this thing where you can create your tribe, and you couldn't do that here, like physically. So I think that's also interesting. Why it can be so fulfilling if you're aware of it and do it correctly. Hey, one question I was wondering about is your time at Passion. We spoke about these concerns, these clients, and all these things that they're doing. Who were people in the programs that really crushed it, where they came in, were person A and now they're person B, like the before and after? I'm so interested. Do you have some examples where you saw some real change?
Oh, yes. So, my goodness, there's so many to consider. So, I'm thinking of one that came in with the story of what they wanted to achieve. And they were kind of starting with their own story and wanting to help replicate that in other people's lives. And but there was like a timidity, like a fear of going live on social media. There was a fear of visibility, of knowing what to say. And then as she went through the program, like I saw her week over week start to gain momentum. But here's the key: she kept showing up, and she got vulnerable. And because she saw other people asking questions, she started asking questions. And then over time, she started to actually grow and start to fill her program. What was really nice also is there was a gentleman who had come through one of our programs who is in the philanthropic space, who had had a successful program first launch, then came through one of our other programs live, and started to implement with even more conviction and confidence, so that he launched, and then right at the end of one launch it went so well he decided to launch again. And it's just like I see this confidence growing and building, and so more people are being served. So there's, I know we have some metrics and data about really what people have been achieving, and that's something like internally that is somewhere in a spreadsheet. I don't personally have that information, but in terms of actually seeing people like week after week start to gain confidence, I've seen people come through, like they've had personal things going on and they're still showing up for themselves, and because they're showing up for themselves in this one way, in fulfilling their mission in their business, their personal life is being positively impacted. Their mental health is improving because they're like trusting themselves to do the thing, and they're doing it and being witnessed, and they're showing up and saying like, I have this place. I don't feel alone. I'm not having to show up and just self motivate. Like they're getting better at self motivation, but they know they've got us. We've got their back. It's everything. So yeah, people from doing like low ticket, trying to sell to many that are starting to grow their audience really well, to those who are saying, I want to actually raise my prices because I know now it's actually possible for me. Like that belief in themselves has grown. There's so many different stories. It's really beautiful.
Right. Want to add here, her name is Menina, and she was working in like she had a studio, physical studio, then COVID hit, right? She shut down her business. She lost all the income overnight. And then she also became pregnant. And then after having her first child, she was, maybe I should do a post-pregnancy workout program. She launched it. It completely bombed, like failed massively, like complete utter shock and fail. And then she went on. Then her studio opened again, and she thought, maybe I could do what I'm doing in my studio. She was a dancer. I could do that actually online. And then she created the business of dance online in her app, and that exploded into the 7 figures. So it's an interesting journey, right? How she had to do it out of necessity, wasted a lot of time, it failed, she was hit rock bottom, and then doing something completely different, but actually connected to what she was doing before, and all of a sudden it worked amazingly. I think that was really interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's so inspiring to see what happens when you, well, and the thing is, it was the trial and error she was willing to show up for and keep going and get this. And she got the support as well to guide her through the process and then just trust herself. Yeah. It's really exciting.
Yes, perfect. Sheila, that was amazing. Thank you so much for doing this, for your time. And if anyone is interested, they can reach out to you. We'll put the contact details in the description.